You're listening to the Iterators of the Imperium.
Hi, I'm Mess, and I'm here with my co-host Ryan, and you're listening to the Iterators of the Imperium podcast, the podcast in which Ryan is the expert on Warhammer 40K, and I am the noob trying to learn about Warhammer universe. So Ryan, what is today's topic?
Oh, Mez, you sweet
All
innocent
right.
child.
I don't say it like that.
No, you. By the end of this episode, you're going to be a new man.
Oh God.
So today, last time was the prologue to the 13th Black Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
Today is the 13th Black Crusade.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, honestly.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Just putting it out there, when I searched the 13th Black Crusade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just for a thumbnail, I did see some some stuff, but I'm not too much. Not too much. I don't want to spoil myself, but yeah.
I'll be honest. There's so much in this that I don't think you could spoil it without actively trying to.
Oh well, that's good to hear then.
Yeah, because even if you found out one part of it, it would all sound like you found out the biggest part of it, and it's none of it's the biggest part. It's all one massive thing. So, yeah.
All right.
All right, you ready for this?
I don't think I am, but let's go anyways.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so we're starting off around the end of the 41st millennia. So we're approaching the year 42,000, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is some point within 41,990 something. I think it's somewhere around there. Anyway, so Chaos forces have begun to take down Imperial defenses, leaving the Imperial Navy quite diminished. And Typhus, the second in command of the Death Guard, is leading his plague fleet all across loads of systems and just scattering this plague called the Plague of Unbelief. Which, when I first heard about it, I thought it just meant because Typhus is turning up and plaguing everyone, they're all stopping believing in the Emperor and in the Space Marines. It's not. It's actually a plague that when you die, you come back to life as a shambling zombie.
What?
Yeah. So not only is everyone plague-ridden, right, all across the Imperium, or all across this section of Imperial space, also, when the guardsmen kill them, they just get back up.
That's so shit. They
Right?
don't even get to rest in peace, man.
Exactly.
It's no. Get back up. That's so shit, man.
Yeah. So it's disease isn't the only problem, because the disease creates enemies as well.
Yeah.
So it's a whole thing.
I mean, it's a good stretch, It's a good strategy.
Solid strategy. Nurgle's on his top game today. So this leads to loads of chaos cults popping up and causing more and more disturbance within Imperial space. So everyone kind of knows something's coming. They just don't know what, But while this going on, Cadian High Command set out an order for all Cadian regiments to regroup at Cadia, which has not been done in, I don't think, ever, or at least a very long time. Because Cadian troops are all over the galaxy fighting all types of different wars. But no, they know something's big coming, and they are right on the doorstep of the Eye of Terror, so they need every man on the ground.
Yeah.
So they call everyone back. So with so many troops returning to Cadia, hundreds of extra landing zones were built outside Casser Tyrock in the fields. Do you remember what a Casser is? Told you last time.
I can't remember.
It's one of their city fortresses that they've built. So it's a defensive bastion, but also it's a habitation place. So in the fields outside one called Casser Tyrock, they built hundreds of extra landing zones so they could get people out of orbit faster. And with millions of troops already on the ground, the Volscani Cataphracts Regiment, which by the way are the best of the best of the best. Right, these are
the top elite.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
They finally landed on Cadia. Now, everyone on Cadia was kind of look, we know something big's coming. Everyone's kind of on edge. When the Volscani landed, the Cadian troops were got no problems now. We got these dudes on our side. They are the dudes. No one is messing with us now, right? And because everyone thinks so highly of the Cataphracts, the Cadian High Command gathered to welcome them at the landing field. This was a severe error.
Why?
Shortly after disembarking their ships, the Volscani cataphracts boarded the Leviathan, which is the command vessel of Cadian High Command,
Yeah.
and slaughtered most of the high-ranking officers, including the commander-in-chief, while many of the Volscani cataphracts stayed on the landing zone and just started gunning down other Cadian troops.
Well, that's not the way you want to start your day.
Yeah, the Volscani cataphracts had turned traitor. They had turned to chaos.
Yeah.
So this,
Well, that's bad.
Yeah, this really broke morale, since when they turned up, everyone was like, we're safe now. And then they were like, no, we're not. We're not goddamn safe. So the Cadian troops at the field were thrown into disarray, as well as masses of them were gunned down. So things were looking pretty bad. Then General Ursarker E. Creed rallied the scattered and fleeing Cadian troops to fight back. He gathered the Cadian 8th in a charge, and with his trusted friend Jaron Kell at his side, they boarded the Leviathan and slaughtered the Volscani there, obviously finding that all the high-ranking officers were very dead.
Yeah.
So, with that being the case, Creed was promoted on the spot to Lord Castellan of Cadia, meaning he is now the commander-in-chief of Cadia. Because there's a war and we need someone in charge, so, your job now, dude. So Creed then immediately started promoting all, the men that he knew that, he thought deserved promotion, and demoted all the people. He was like, this guy's a worthless arsehole. Just sack him. Just started demoting people and promoting people left, right, and centre, trying to get his troops to work the way he needed them to work, to do the job he needed them to do. So after that, Abaddon begins his actual invasion. So he starts with mass-scale bombardment of the planet, as you do, because he's got a massive fleet of chaos nonsense, which totally messes up the planet's shields. They built shield generators for the planet that could put up a shield good enough to defend against a planet killer. So, a bomb or a nuke or something large enough that it would actually wipe out a planet.
Yeah.
So they put these mass-scale shields up, but Abaddon's bombardment was of such a large scale that it actually damaged the generators that were trying to hold up the shield.
Yeah.
So the shields went down, which is not great. So while trying to rebuild the Cadian defenses for the invasion, because Creed knows something's coming, so he's desperately trying to get everyone back in line and get stuff going. So he sends a scouting party into the Iterators to see if we can get a warning for what's actually coming, because he knows something big's coming. Abaddon's not pissing around this time. So they find out Abaddon's fleet is inbound with a Blackstone fortress called the Will of Eternity. Now, I mentioned the Blackstone fortresses last time, but they are unbelievably gigantic ancient alien ships that had the ability to fire a laser that could blow planets to pieces.
Yeah.
They're basically like Death Stars, but they look a lot cooler. So Abaddon.
What did you call them again?
Blackstone Fortress. You'll be able to find a good picture of it if you get a visual. But yeah, so the scouts go in and find out Abaddon's on his way with a gigantic fleet of tons of chaos ships and one of these guys. So that's a problem.
Looks cool.
Yeah. The problem is, with the shield down, Cadia doesn't have any real defense against its cannons.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, aye. So a plan is formed among the loyalists. Sven Bloodhowl and the Fire Howler Space Wolves chapters, along with remains of other chapters that are kind of scattered from their legions, or their chapters, and some Cadian forces make a desperate assault on the Blackstone Fortress to hopefully inhibit its progress. They basically crash a ship straight into it as a boarding torpedo, and then just start fighting inside it.
Well, all right then.
Yeah, so it's like a couple of small groups of space wolves, a handful of random chapterless space marines because their guys all died or they've been separated from them, and a ton of just Cadian shock troopers all just fly face first into this Blackstone Fortress and just start gunning down everything inside.
I mean, why not? You know, you have nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah, there's a point
Why
where when I'm sure it's Sven Bloodhill is the one that comes up with a plan because he's like the ranking member, I believe. I don't know for sure, but it's one of the Space Wolves leaders is the one explaining the plan, and the other one's just like, so it's a suicide mission. He's like, yep.
Yes, it is.
If we can buy 10 minutes, we're good, right?
Yeah.
So while they put that plan in action, the Mechanicum is desperately trying to repair the generators. So a cry goes up from Cadian forces. A call to arms. It's a cry of defiance as well. Cadia stands. It's muttered among all the troops of Cadia as they fight the forces of chaos. They just keep crying, Cadia stands. Cadia is not going to fall today. Not to Abaddon and his chaos nonsense.
No.
Also, around this point, Creed addresses his men to kind of rally them for battle. And I've mentioned this quote before, and it is my favorite quote from this. Let me make one thing clear, gentlemen. We are now in the fight of our lives. The archenemy has come to our home, with greater force and fury than ever before. All that stands between him and victory is us. Us, gentlemen. It is we who must stand before the enemy and turn him back. Why? Because we're here and there's no one else to do it for us. So if any man here believes he cannot do his duty to the Emperor, then he should present himself before the regimental commissars and stop wasting my time. This is just an excellent quote.
That's an inspirational speech if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, at the very least, it'll scare you into fighting Abaddon and his chaos nonsense, because if you don't, a commissar's going to blow your head off.
I mean, yeah.
That is the commissar's job, to be fair. Alright, taking a sidestep now, right? We're going to step away a bit to Belisarius Call.
Yes, I've heard that before.
Yeah, we talked about him last time. He's the Mechanicum guy with like 8 Peel's brains in his. So he is, for some reason, when he turns up in this storyline, he's chatting with a Harlequin Shadowseer.
Yeah.
Right? And the Shadowseer sends him to this random backwater planet, like away in the middle of nowhere. And Call's just like, sure, let's go. So he just pisses off to this random planet that has nothing on it. It's just totally barren. So the planet was abandoned by the Imperium back in like M34, back in like year 34,000. So it's been nothing for like 7,000 years, right? But they abandoned it after Abaddon attacked it during the Fourth Black Crusade. Call finds evidence of mass bombardment on the planet and realizes it wasn't a random attack. Abaddon was trying to destroy something there. And then after murdering a ton of orcs, because orcs are everywhere, like Call just turns up, like he just finds a bunch of orcs and they attack him, and him and his dudes just murder them. So after that, he discovers that there are these pylons of black stone on this planet, which there are on a bunch of planets. Specifically, there are on Cadia as well. And Call realizes it's these that Abaddon was trying to destroy. He just doesn't quite know why yet.
Okay.
So, Call heads for Cadia. Oh, he goes back to the Shadowseer, and the Shadowseer is like, yeah, you should probably go to Cadia. And he's like, all right, cool, no problem. Sorry. Honestly, they don't explain why he's friends with a random Harlequin. Like, Call just has some friends, but he's like the least pleasant guy ever whenever you like find out about him talking to another human being. He's just such an unpleasant guy, but apparently just has random alien friends.
But he looks cool.
He does. He's a very good guy. He's also like I think he's like 10 feet tall or something like that. The guy's huge.
Yeah, and old.
Yeah, he's old as shit. He's like 10,000 years old at this point.
Yeah, I googled him. He's like, yeah. People's questions are like, why is he a heretic and why is he so big?
That's those are the most important questions about him. Why is he a heretic and why is he so damn big?
Yeah, an old, big heretic. You know,
yeah, that's it. That's him. That's him at a T. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna take another sidestep away from Cadia to a planet called Solomon's. So this is
Okay.
where Trazyn the Infinite lives and has his big vault of crap. Right? Within his vault, there is a thing called the Bell of Saint Gestal, which...
Bell of Saint Gestar.
Right, and I want to make something clear. Everything in his vault is held within stasis, right? It cannot move or do anything. It is held perfectly in the condition it was put in, right?
Yeah.
This bell starts ringing in his vault. Which shouldn't be possible. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
And as the bell rings, it starts destroying a bunch of shit in his vault. It starts damaging roofs and walls and stuff. I'm pretty sure it bursts a coolant pipe and floods a couple of chambers, stuff like that.
Right.
But it tolls 13 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trazyn is very confused by this and is like, well, all my shit's fucked up now. What the hell is going on? So he goes to this thing called the Celestial Orrery, right? It's a piece of technology that is a perfect replica of a perfect mirror of the universe, just in a scale and in a form that you can, search it, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And he basically tracks the disturbance back to Cadia. And he's kind of staring at it for a minute, and he's like, I'm gonna go to Cadia, because everything leads there. I don't know if I'm gonna turn up and save the day, or if I'm just gonna steal something, but I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
So Trazyn heads for Cadia.
Wait, this was the dude who just pops up and steals shit and goes
Yeah.
away, right? Oh, but yeah, I remember.
The Necron Lord.
Oh my god, now it's all coming back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that though.
He's a cool guy. Okay. We have one more, even further away step to take for our side story.
Okay.
We circle back after this, don't worry. Okay, so we're stepping all the way to Terra now. We're stepping back to Earth, right?
Hey, Earth, yeah.
Right. Specifically, the Phalanx, which is the home ship of the Imperial Fists. It's an absolutely unbelievable scale of spaceship that houses it housed the entire legion of the Imperial Fist, because they don't have a home planet, they just have this ship. So it is an unbelievable scale, right? This ship is in orbit over Terra at this point, right? And most of the Legion's chapters are away, defending shit, killing stuff, doing missions and stuff, right?
Mm.
There is one squad of the chapter still on the ship because they're very inexperienced, because they're new. Right? They're the only ones that are only Imperial Fist there to defend the ship. And there's also a scattering of the first company as well. I think they were injured or something. There was a reason, but there was a scattering of the first company as well. And their leader is a guy called Garadon, right? So on the Phalanx, while it's just dicking around over Terra, a chaos rift opens, or a warp rift opens, and a guy called Be'lakor, which is one of Abaddon's lackeys, who has decided to sack Abaddon's plan and go straight for Terra because, I don't know, I think he's smart, I guess. So he opens a rift straight into the heart of the Phalanx and boards it with a ton of his Iron Warriors, Chaos Marines. Because his plan is take over the Phalanx, use its massive guns to blow Terra to pieces. Great plan. Mm-hmm. Solid plan. Fun was had by all.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because so little of the troops were left on the Phalanx, they were massively outnumbered by the Iron Warriors and Be'lakor's nonsense.
Also they were new, right?
Yeah, they're all barely seen combat at this point as well.
It's like, you can't blame me, it's my first day at the job.
You're like, well, you're getting blamed anyway.
Well, shit.
So, yeah, they'd only left a handful of barely blooded Imperial Fists there to defend stuff. So the Iron Warrior started infecting the ships with a chaos virus, which,
great.
Not great. So Garadon decided to take executive action, turned the ship's guns on itself, and blasted away the infected section.
Oh.
It removed a total of 10% of the ship's overall mass. There's quite a bit.
That's, yeah.
Yeah. And then like Bellacor's just kind of like, whatever. We're still like we outnumber them like 4,000 to 1. We're gonna win. Don't worry about it. It's cool. Like it's fine. Like we got this. So he gets really cocky and basically just starts sending his dudes in left, right, and center. Which, to be fair, he would eventually win no matter what because of the sheer outnumbering. But because he wasn't being careful about how he did it or strategic, the Imperial Fists were now taking some names. You know, they were kicking ass a bit now because they weren't fighting a proper force. They were fighting random guys running around doing whatever the hell they wanted. It went from fighting proper Marines to fighting a bunch of 40-year-old men playing airsoft. Like they were just kind of firing wildly and stuff like that. So the Imperial Fist started to be able to kill some of them, but they were definitely gonna lose. Now Be'lakor obviously had the plan to take over the Phalanx, and Garadon, the leader of the Imperial Fist, realized this because he was going for the command center. Like he was going for the bridge of the ship to take over. He wasn't just killing stuff or trying to destroy it. He clearly had a reason in mind. So Garadon goes, right, can't let him take the Phalanx, obviously, because it's our home ship and all that. But more importantly, can't let him use it on Terra. So they make a blind jump into the warp. They just fire the engines and see where they end up, right? Anything to get away from Earth, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Like, we don't have to win. We just have to not lose, is the rule here, right? So they jump into the warp randomly, which obviously annoys Be'lakor because he now can't do his plan. But he's like, you know what? Now that we're in the warp, all my dudes are even tankier. So yeah, fuck you. We're just gonna kill you now to take your ship anyway. We'll eventually get back to Earth. We'll use it. Don't worry. You just bought yourself a little bit of time. So his dudes were all tanked up and a lot more dangerous. So let's be honest. The battle looked like it was lost for the Imperial Fist.
Yes.
Until, from the mystery of the warp, step Space Marines coated in ghostly flames. Which
John Cena.
Basically, yeah. But a chapter of Space Marines coated in ghostly flames step out of the warp and unleash fire onto the fucking Imperial warriors and just murder them. Just absolutely slaughter them. Once again, the Legion of the Damned has materialized from the warp as the Imperium needed them most and saved the day.
Yes.
I mentioned these guys in the past. They're like the goddamn sword of Gryffindor. They appear when the Imperium needs them most and just kick ass. But as soon as the fight is won, or at least tipped back in the Loyalists' favour, usually they disappear. But they didn't disappear this time. They just hung around.
Oh.
So, Garadon, the leader of the Imperial Fist, was just like, well, okay, this is weird. Got these extra guys on my ship now.
That's nice.
Yeah. So he starts making a plan for a route back to Mars for emergency repairs by the Mechanicum. Because the Phalanx is pretty effed up because they blew away a big chunk of it. But then they receive a call from Cadia explaining that it's in trouble and they need help. So Garadon's like, all right, ship's messed up, but Cadia needs us more. Let's go. And then he looks at the Legion of the Damned sergeant, and the sergeant's just like, just agrees, and they just off we go. Clearly, this is why they were here.
Yeah.
So enough sidestepping. We're back to Cadia now, right? We're staying on Cadia for a bit. So the Well of Eternity, the Blackstone Fortress, emerges from the eye and gets in orbit over Cadia. But the Mechanicum is nowhere near fixed the generators, right? The generators are not even kind of close to being fixed. So that thing's going to fire its cannon and wipe a hole clean through Cadia. That'll be it. It'll be over. Right? Again, the day is lost for the 86th time today. The Well of Eternity fires its cannon, but the blast is halted.
Ooh.
Right? The day is saved. Right? So a tech priest is like, oh cool, our dudes must have fixed their stuff. So he goes back to the shield generator to check how it's going in case they've jerry-rigged it and they need help or something like that. Just make sure everything's on track. He finds all of his men dead.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he goes into the generator room and all of his guys are just lying dead around the generator.
But how?
Well, he doesn't know how, but they're all dead around the generator, and the generator has been repaired with mysterious xenotech.
Okay.
Yep. Just moving on.
Okay.
So, because the shields are back up and running, Abaddon is forced to move to conventional assault methods. So, he fires thousands of drop pods of Chaos Marines and Demons and everything onto Cadia, and they begin assaulting the Cadian defenders. You know, like a normal war.
Yeah.
Leading the charge is Abaddon's second in command, Demon Prince Urcanthos. I think he's a Demon Prince of Khorne, so he's a big red demon with an axe and stuff. Creepy guy. But pretty good for a fight. So Chaos Forces punch through the Cadian defenders pretty easily, and Urcanthos heads straight for the shield generator, because he's just going to decimate it with his axe. And barring his way, he finds the Sisters of Battle.
Ooh.
Yeah. Led by
those.
the twin canonesses, Genevieve and Eleanor, and they obviously start to fight him. So the rest of the Sisters of Battle start taking on all the Chaos troops around them, and the two leaders, the two canonesses, start battling Urcanthos. I'll be honest with you, he fucks them up. Like it's pretty cool that they're like, no, you will not get by us, and then but yeah, he's gigantic, and they're just two random women, so he just kicks their asses. I'm pretty sure that Eleanor does stab him in the chest with her sword, which kind of fucks him up a little bit. But he kills her pretty easily after that because he's angry now. And I'm pretty sure Genevieve, as he's like holding her about to kill her, she headbutts him. Just as like a last dying act of defiance. It's like, fuck you. And then she and then he basically just squeezes her to death and throws her on the ground like she's nothing.
Yeah. I would have spit on his face, you know?
Yeah, spit in his eye. So yeah, after that minor disturbance, he goes and destroys the generators.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, not, but you know.
Well, it's great for him. So elsewhere on Cadia, there's a Chaos Baneblade tank that is totally messing up a bunch of Cadian troops real bad. And suddenly it turns around and starts firing on the Chaos troops. Weird, huh? All this tech that's working strangely.
Yes. I have questions.
Yeah, don't worry, they will be answered.
Yes, I have a feeling they will.
So Creed uses the tank turning on its own guys as a distraction to try and like to send Cadian troops to defend the shield generator, but obviously he immediately finds the corpses of the two Sisters of Battle leaders, and it's just like, we're not gonna win this. And just totally loses hope, and so do a lot of his guys. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna order a last stand. Everyone's gonna regroup for a last stand. And when he goes back, he finds his troops all holding like religious icons and muttering things like "the Emperor protects," and he's like, what the hell is going on? Because he's not religious, so he's just really annoyed by it. He's like, what the hell are you doing? Get back to shooting, you idiots. And then he sees it. A woman, clad in armor, descending from the clouds with wings at her back and a sword in her hand. Saint Celestine has returned, risen from the grave again.
No. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I remember her, yes,
yes. So she has returned, and on her way, she found some lost ships in the warp. So she acted as their guiding light. And with her land a bunch of what do they call it? Like lander vessels. I can't remember the right word. Valkyries, I think they're called. Which contain 5 companies of battle sisters from the Order of Our Martyred Lady that were lost in the warp 1,400 years earlier.
Bruh.
So her presence, being that she's a living saint, really it like invigorates the troops of Cadia. Basically, anyone that's religious basically gets a bit of a buff from her being there. So the Cadian troops take the fight to the Chaos troops again, even harder than before. They're now backed by 5 companies of like fresh from resting Sisters of Battle, ready to kick demon ass. And you've got Celestine flying around murdering stuff. So
she looks cool, by the way.
She is very cool.
Yeah.
So Urcanthos comes back from destroying the generator, which he has destroyed, by the way. And his way is blocked by Celestine, who proceeds to resurrect the twin canonesses that he murdered, and with them, they fuck up her Canthos.
Nice.
Which is just excellent.
Yeah.
So now there's just the problem of having no shield, and the planet-killing spaceship is still above them.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's still a problem, yes.
yeah. So you know how I said that Celestine found a bunch of lost ships in the warp and acted as a guiding light?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, one of the ones she found was the Phalanx. It was just run a little bit late. So the Phalanx emerges from the warp, basically right next to the Blackstone Fortress. Luckily, the Phalanx is big enough to blast it to pieces. Unfortunately, it has shields. So the Phalanx just opens fire on the Blackstone Fortress and the Chaos Fleet. I'm pretty sure they destroy like a third of the Chaos Fleet. Like, just because the Phalanx is so large and has so many guns that it's basically a fleet in itself. So it just starts wiping out Chaos ships left, right, and center.
Nice.
And then a section of the Blackstone Fortress's shield goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that squad of Space Wolves and stuff that were sent aboard?
Yeah.
They're still inside, they're still alive, and they're still fighting.
God.
They've just been tearing the ship apart from the inside, murdering anyone they come across. So they've managed to take down a section of the shield. There's a point where one of the other Space Wolves leaders sees this, and he realizes they must still be alive, and he's just like, huh, the fangs of Fenris bite deep. So the Phalanx uses the hole in the shield to just annihilate the Blackstone Fortress, which blows up into a bunch of massive chunks that just kind of float around in orbit.
Yeah.
But it can no longer use its planet-killing laser, which is good. That's basically what we wanted.
Yeah.
So with that out of the way, the Black Fleet starts to like retreat to regroup a bit, because they've been pretty fucked up. And, like, as a sign of, like, we've now got this, Jaren Kell replants the standard of the Cadian 8th atop the Cregan Gate, as the Sisters of Battle and Cadians chase the Chaos troops back. So Cadia now has time to breathe for a bit, which is good.
Yeah, they needed that.
Yeah. So Abaddon, from his flagship, looks over the battlefield and decides enough is enough. He takes to the field himself for his next assault. The final assault, I might add. Luckily, some reinforcements arrive for Cadia. The Crimson Fist's 5th Company, the Knights of House Tyrannus, the Cadian 51st Armour Division, and Belisarius Call's fleet all arrive at Cadia. Call's fleet takes up position at with the Phalanx, and then he goes down to the planet to talk to the leaders of all the companies and everything, because he's figured something out. So he explains his finding with the Cadian pylons, and explains what Abaddon's plan is, because he's realised the pylons are literally holding back the warp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it turns out, right, the first 12 of Abaddon's crusades weren't failures. The Imperium just didn't know what he was trying to do. So he had been strategically destroying pylons on planets, or destroying planets with pylons, to weaken their hold, which is why the Chaos Storms and the strains of the Chaos troops and everything have been getting stronger over the last 10,000 years. Because every time he destroys the pylons, the warp can leak into the material world more.
Yeah, that's kind of smart.
It's really smart. So now we're at a point where it's no longer Cadia stands, it's Cadia must stand. These pylons cannot be destroyed. So after they have their meeting and Call explains all this, a little while later, Call is visited by Trazen, who offers to help Call with the pylons, because they are Necron technology after all. You know, his dudes did build them. So Call begrudgingly agrees and kind of soon figures out how the pylons work, and he forms a plan. He just needs time. So Call heads to the underground tunnels where the pylons are. For some reason, they're all in underground tunnels on Cadia. I don't know why. Or a large section of them are. Meanwhile, Abaddon starts his actual assault. So luckily, they're fended off by Celestine and the Sisters of Battle. So, you know, they've got a bit of time. Eventually, Abaddon's just like, all right, sack this. And he and a bunch of his main guard that are in Terminator armor teleport directly into the Cadian command center to kill the commanders. And Jaren Kale gives his life to push Creed onto an escape ship to save him.
Yeah.
Yeah. His last words, while staring into Abaddon's eyes, Cadia stands.
Oh, that's badass. That's badass,
Yep.
man.
So the Cadian 8th, which are the company that Creed rallied at the start to take down the Volscani, he basically just took them as his guys, as his squad. So they were all the ones in the command center with Creed, so they retreat into the underground tunnels with Abaddon and his troops at their back, and they meet up with Creed and everything like that, who, escape to the tunnels to be with Call and all his dudes and everything like that. Because it's now seen as like a last bastion kind of thing. Because they need to protect Call at all costs now. So the Cadians and Call's troops desperately try to hold back Abaddon from Call and the pylons. Because, that's like their only goal now is keep Call safe and keep Abaddon away from him, basically.
Yeah.
So Call's trying to finish up his work, and for some reason Trajan's just kind of like lingering around him. He's not helping or anything, he's just kind of hanging out, just with Call. They're both total weirdos, so it makes sense that they would be friends. So Trajan realizes Abaddon will be on them really soon. Like, the Cadian troops are not enough to hold him back. And he kind of like stands there talking to himself for a bit, and he's like trying to decide whether or not to be the savior, and basically just decides he has a better chance of finding something cool for his vault if he gets more time on Cadia. So he's like, all right, I guess I'll play the good guy. So Trajan unleashes a bunch of these Tesseract vaults or Tesseract labyrinths, that he has, right? They're little like stasis vaults that inside them is just an endless maze. But you can like trap people inside them and stuff. So he uses these for things from his vault, so he can carry it around and like unleash the thing inside if he needs to.
Mm-hmm. I think you've talked about that before.
I have. I've mentioned it briefly, but he decides to basically throw a bunch of these like Pokeballs, and from them he unleashes a squad, or a very large squad, I might add, of Ultramarine troops. He unleashes Lost Tanith snipers, a bunch of Vostroyan, a squad of salamanders, and Inquisitor Katarina Greyfax and her bodyguards.
Nice.
Now, everyone is really confused, because this is not where any of them last were 10 seconds ago, right?
Yep.
But they all pretty quickly realize everyone around me looks weird, but those guys are clearly Chaos. So they all just start firing on the Chaos guys and fucking up Abaddon, right? Even though half of them don't know who he is or what's going on. They just get the idea. Right? They're covered in skulls, they're like covered in human flesh, all that. They're probably the bad guys, let's get them. So they just start fucking unleashing into them. Except Greyfax. She just kind of stands off to the side like, what the fuck is happening? She doesn't want to act too quickly, because acting rashly is how you get to heresy, right? And Inquisitors aren't about that. So she's just standing off to the side, just watching, like, what the fuck is going on? So they quickly get over the confusion, begin stomping Chaos ass. Abaddon notices Call fucking about with a pylon, and realizes that Call has figured out his plan. So he summons a load of demons.
Nice, as you do.
Yeah. So the battle then tips in Abaddon's favor again. So the Ultramarines get murdered, the Vestroyan get almost all killed, the Legion of the Damned turn up and start helping the Imperium, which is great. Then a bunch of Space Wolves rock up out of nowhere and start kicking Abaddon's ass as well.
Nice.
Then a section of the roof caves in.
Bro, this chaos, man. What's going on?
No, the planet is just pretty fucked up at this point. It's been bombarded to hell, and they're in a random cave. So apparently the cave roof falls in. Abaddon uses the distraction as a way to charge for the Cadians, and Creed at the center of them to kill Creed once and for all. Luckily, Celestine flies in the fucking hole in the roof with her guards and decides to 3v1 Abaddon. And while all of this is going on, Greyfax is just sitting there like, what the fuck is happening? Why is everything heresy? Why is there chaos guys covered in blood and nonsense? Why is there, like, a man that's like 10 feet tall and made in metal parts that shouldn't even exist fucking around with a giant pylon for no reason? Why are there troops that have fallen out of time fighting? Why is there a heretical saint flying around killing stuff? What is going on? Like, why are there space wolves that are half mutant wolf? What is happening? She's just bewildered by this. Yeah. And why are there flaming spirits shooting magic bullet guns as well? So she's just bewildered by all of this going on. And then she spots Trazen and is like, oh, last straw. No Necrons, that's it. So she goes over to shoot Trazen. But she doesn't actually get to shoot him. Or no, she does, but it bounces off his like shield thing. And then she finds herself like frozen. And she can't figure out why, and it's because he's put a thing called a mind shackle scarab in her. It's basically a piece of technology that allows you to control someone. He does it to everyone he puts in his vault in case they escape, and he can just be like, nope, turn you off, and then I'll go build you a new vault. So he like does that, he like stasises her while she's just like standing there like, oh, what the fuck? And
that sounds very OP, by the way.
It is, but he can only do it to people he's had a hand on for a bit. So Trazen kind of talks to her because she's like freaking out and calling him a monster and all that stuff. And he's like, you know, your priorities might be a bit out of order right now since I'm not being murdery right now. And those dudes definitely are.
Yeah.
Like, your gun is definitely pointed at the wrong guy right this second. Call finishes his adjustments and powers up the pylon. And a call echoes out from the pylon all across Cadia. Troops on both sides fall to their knees, and Psychers lose their connection to the warp and basically just lose their minds. A beam of black light emits from the pylon, almost hits the phalanx, and then goes straight into the center of the Eye of Terror, which begins to shrink. And as it does, demons fade from the battlefield. Psychers begin to drop dead because of how quickly they're losing their connection to the warp. Celestine's holy light begins to fade and her power diminishes, and the Legion of the Damned disappear. Abaddon kind of stumbles a little bit. Luckily, his troops are still just, Space Marines.
Yeah.
So they're kind of totally unharmed by this. Although the Loyalists have been hindered by this quite a bit because they've just lost all the Legion of the Damned and Celestine, basically. So Abaddon's troops totally unhindered, and he recovers from his stumble, and he wounds Celestine, forcing her to the ground. So Creed is watching the Imperium's last hope about to be impaled by Abaddon's demon sword. So he rallies at 8th to charge Abaddon to save Celestine, and Abaddon plunges his sword towards Celestine while she's on the ground, and he recoils away before the sword hits. Because Greyfax has now turned against Abaddon, and Inquisitors have some psychic powers, and being that she's a really good Inquisitor, basically just unleashes all of her rage at the situation that's unfolding before, just all the heresy that's happening, she just unleashes all the rage of it directly into Abaddon's mind.
Yeah.
Just puts him into agony. She also then rallies her bodyguards and just starts murdering Chaos troops. Having bought a little bit of time, Creed and his troops charge Abaddon, and Abaddon cuts off Creed's arm with his claw. Yep. So Abaddon then lifts Creed from the ground and begins to choke the life from him and taunts him about Cadia falling and how embarrassing it is that it's while Creed is the defender and how the Imperium's gonna follow. And then Celestine impales Abaddon from the ground with her sword and utters, "The Emperor protects."
Nice.
Because fuck you, Abaddon.
Yeah, there are some badass final lines in this episode.
There's a lot of it. It's very dramatic.
I like it.
So Abaddon reels with a hole in his chest, and he intends to attack again, but then he kind of realizes that with the pylon doing what it's doing, he is running out of time. So he and his troops teleport away back to their flagship.
Yeah.
Because while Creed was being choked to death, Abaddon told him before he even came to the planet, he had already put in action his plan to destroy Cadia. Right? And Creed didn't know what he meant. But after they leave, his plan becomes quite apparent. He has activated all of the remaining rockets on the back of the Blackstone Fortress chunks to launch them directly into Cadia.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, not good. So the Phalanx tries to blast the chunks out of the sky, but it's not they can't do it in a way that's actually going to do anything, or they don't manage to in time. So the remains of the Blackstone Fortress impact Cadia, which fractures the planet, and the pylons begin to fail. With the pylons failing, the eye begins to grow again, and demons reform on the battlefield.
Oh.
Which is not great.
No.
Yeah. So ships begin to land to evacuate the forces on Cadia, and Creed goes into a depressive episode over winning only to lose. So Greyfax takes charge and starts ordering evacuation. Creed eventually snaps out of his depressive episode and uses the Cadian 8th to hold the evacuation area to defend it from the Chaos troops and demons and stuff while everyone gets off. Sisters of Battle and the Black Templars are the last to evacuate on Call's ship with Greyfax and the Knights of House Tyrannus. And Celestine's also on the ship still, because she's with the Sisters of Battle. And Creed and the 8th continue to hold the landing site as they take off. And as they're taking off, Greyfax hears a voice on the wind saying, "Cadia stands."
Ooh.
Yeah. So now we've got an evacuation fleet led by the Phalanx at its head and the Mechanicum fleet that came with Call at its rear. So everyone else, all the Cadian troops are in the middle being protected, basically. The Chaos fleet kind of doesn't try very hard to fuck them up, but it does shoot at them a little bit, but it's not really a big deal. Of the 850 million people on Cadia, only 2.5 million made it off-world.
Bruh.
Yeah.
That's a heavy loss.
Yeah. So Abaddon, back on his ship, his flagship, is just watching the fleet leave, and he's just like, let them flee. You know what I mean? It's a fraction of what they were. They're no threat.
Yeah.
And then one of his sorcerers come to him and are like, I don't know what it is, but there's some crazy artifact on Call's ship. So Abaddon's like, all right, well, need that. So Abaddon now goes, right, well, we're going after Call's ship. Let's go. So he takes his big, gigantic flagship and starts storming after them. So Call tries to use the Mechanicum ships to, buy him time, because the Phalanx and most of the ships in front of him have already started their warp jump, so it's too late in the process to call it off to go back and take on Abaddon. But so Call only has his ships to defend him, so he just has all of his guys stop so he can keep going. So his ship carries on. The Mechanicum ships all stop and start firing at Abaddon's one. But Abaddon's ship is like a Space Marine Legion's flagship. So it's an absolute monstrosity compared to the Mechanicum ones.
Yeah.
And it just goes clean through them all and wipes them all out like they're nothing. And then just keeps bearing down on Call's ship. So as they're kind of trying to flee, Celestine has a vision from magical emperor powers, I guess. And leads them to this planet that's the furthest one out in the Cadian system, which, again, there shouldn't really be anything there, but they take her word for it. They land and they begin this long trek through the planet's tundras into the mountains, led by Celestine the entire way. And with Call is this gigantic conveyor robot thing. It's just a big walker carrying the artifact on it, which, again, no one knows what the fuck it is yet.
Yeah.
Eventually, Abaddon's troops catch up with them on this planet, and the Black Templars sacrifice a bunch of their troops to buy them time so that they can escape. So, when the Chaos troops finally catch up with them again, luckily, Celestine has led them into a trap, because a bunch of Eldar just appear out of nowhere and mess up the Chaos troops.
Let's go.
Yeah. So the Chaos Marines all start to fall back because they were not prepared to fight the Eldar.
No.
Yeah. Especially Eldar that have not been in a battle until this point. They're all like ready to go. You know, they all just woke up from a nice nap. Like they're ready to fight. The Chaos Troops have been fighting for ages, so they didn't really have a chance. So they all backed off. Then Call notices that the forces of the Eldar are made up of troops from a bunch of different Eldar homeworlds, or craft worlds, sorry, which is really weird because they don't usually team up. And then up ahead, he sees Celestine guiding them into an Eldar webway portal.
Oh, that's cool.
This is where the vision led them, was to the webway portal.
Yeah.
Call talks to the same Harlequin Shadowseer he spoke to at the start, who tells him, "The ending has passed. It is time for a new beginning."
Oh, another banger, you know.
I know. And one last little bit. Back on Cadia, Creed stands alone, the last man standing on a fractured and destroyed world. As he's bleeding severely, obviously, because he lost an arm and he's injured.
Yeah.
And as the light fades from Creed's vision, he hears, "Ursarker E. Creed, this need not be your end. Eternity awaits."
Oh. Another banger of a line.
Yeah.
There's a lot of one-liners in here, Ryan.
There's a lot of really good ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So, just to let you know, for the record, the reason all the tech was going wrong was because Trazyn was going around infecting all the tech. Also, Trazyn kidnapped Creed at the end there. So, that's the 13th Black Crusade. It's a long one, but it's a good one. And
It was a good one.
it's really good. And it directly follows into our next episode, which will be the last episode of this season, which is The Reawakening.
Ooh.
It's time for a new beginning, my man.
Yes, sir. In season 2.
No. New beginning's next
well.
episode. God, that's The Reawakening.
Yeah. I was just putting it together with, our upcoming stuff. Just hint
Uh-huh.
at the people.
You're misleading people.
Well, sorry.
Oh.
I think I have a new favorite character, by the way.
Who?
It's not Sanguinius anymore. It's Saint Celestine. She sounds OP as hell.
Oh, she's a tank.
Yeah. And she cannot die, because if she does, she just
She comes back.
I'm here again,
Yeah.
Did you miss me?
I think this story was the point where I grew to really like Belisarius Call.
Yeah.
But
Why, though? Let me hear why.
Because he's just such a weirdo. Just every time he talks to someone, he's just the least pleasant guy. But everyone's like, well, you're a dick and no one likes you, but we need you. So, I mean, I guess. But the next stage of this, the next episode, is where you find out what his artifact is and all this stuff and what his plan has been this whole time. And it's incredible.
Oh, that's good, because I was actually wondering if I should ask you, like, midways throughout the episode, if I should ask, what is this artifact? But I figured you would tell me at some point, so,
The artifact is one of the main points of the next episode.
Oh, okay, I was about to say, don't spoil me, right?
No, I'm not gonna. Although I will tell you, there is one more part, actually, because, I mean, I could explain it in the next one, but it's kind of an irrelevancy. So, with the Cadian pylons all destroyed with Cadia gone, the Eye of Terror begins to expand, and it grows until it is a tear right across the entire galaxy.
Okay.
So there's no longer a hole in the middle of the galaxy
No,
that leads to hell. There is an entire tear in a straight line right across the galaxy, splitting the Imperium in two.
Well, that's not a minor detail. That's actually huge.
It is, but I don't think it is a particularly large detail in the next section of this story. But like afterwards, obviously, it basically causes the entire plot after this point.
Yeah.
But I was trying to remember if it takes a major point in the Reawakening, or if it's better to just explain at the end of this one. So explain it now. It's called the Cicatrix Maledictum, by the way, which is a really cool name. So that's where we leave off there. Our what was it called? The Celestinian Crusade is making their way into the webway with the help of the Eldar. Cadia is gone. Abaddon is now, his fleet is now at large, having succeeded in their goal. And look, they are heading for one very specific place, but you'll find that out in the next episode. And the Imperium is cut in half by, a tear to hell.
It's here. Yeah.
So, fun times were had by all.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for the next episode.
It's going to be good, man.
It's going to be good.
It's going to be good.
Hell yeah. But I think that's us for today.
All right, man. Well, thank you guys for listening into Iterators of the Imperium podcast. It's been me, Miss, and of course, Ryan. And we will see you in the next one. Take care and peace.
Bye.